London-born David Greensmith joined Glen King PR as Business and Finance Director in the summer of 2015, at the beginning of an exciting new era for this business originally, which was established in 2005. David was recently appointed Chair of our Sustainability Group and looks forward to continuing this to support businesses across the Southwest. We look forward to what you have to say, David, on creating sustainable communities. Thank you.
So London born, so clearly not from this area, so hopefully you can understand me. What I wanted to talk about today was, say, creating sustainable communities, but it's a bit more than that. This is just a bit of a summary with me. I've been involved in the construction. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. Been doing this for 46 years now, so it slides slightly out of date. Started as an apprentice, and interestingly enough, I spoke with Katrina earlier on. We were talking about how difficult it was for females within construction, particularly as an apprentice. Well, trust me, as a 15-year-old coming into the building trade as an apprentice, that was quite tough as well. Every induction going, you got it. Things have moved on, thankfully, and the conversations we had earlier on with CITB proved that, and from Galliford Try, things have moved on. So, creating sustainable communities. When I took over the role of chair for Construction Excellence on sustainability, the first meeting was to try and understand what it really meant. And it's absolutely colossal as a subject. And so any one of you that are trying to, put it into a box, it's impossible. So what I've tried to do today is look at one particular area, which is focusing around housing, look at some forms of leadership and why that's important, following on from the theme from Emma, and then talk about the projects and why it's important, and why driver partners, as I refer to them, make projects happen. So the project subjects is improving our housing, in particular low carbon heating and hot water. And one of the challenges that I thought was really interesting was that the carbon target of 2050, the reduction to 80%, is really something that we never thought would happen. But actually, with the recent government announcements in their clean growth strategy, I think that we may actually be able to achieve that, which is really good, positive news. And it actually supports some of the work that Constructing Excellence have been doing in developing a paper for low carbon heating and hot water. The other challenge for 2050, and I thought this was impossible also until I met John from Bristol University, was that in 2050, and it's apt now, there will be a robotic football team that will play the World Cup winners and beat them. And there's probably more chance of that happening than England, I'm afraid. So why gas heating? Why is it an issue? Well, annually it creates something like 73 million tonnes of carbon that we can't clean. So every gas boiler at home, every time it fires up and heats hot water, it's creating carbon, and we can't remove that from the atmosphere. So dealing with it at source, and why we need to focus on removing that is a positive thing. But it needs people to actually make these projects happen. Recently, the government have just introduced the Clean Growth Strategy, and part of that talks about the decarbonisation of heating and hot water in housing. So what I've done, I've looked at from a social housing element, and one thing we recognise within the Forum for Sustainability is that we need to drill down projects to something that we can actually achieve. If we try to do the big jobs, we're never going to complete them. So I've drilled this down to social housing in particular, and that's a particular focus. The government say that 13% of UK emissions is housing, so it's a big chunk. If we can tackle some of that, we've got some way to we can make things happen. So what the government are saying now is that they want to phase out the installation of high carbon heating in new and existing homes. So from 2020, which is not far away, gas used for heating and hot water will be phased out in new properties, which is fantastic news for me. It's a bit of a shock for many landlords because they didn't think they had to do it. And gradually through 2020 through to 2030, it will be removed completely. And as we go forward, it will be removed in existing housing. So it's how do we do that? We need driver partners. We need, as Emma alluded to earlier, well, not alluded to, I should say, made it very clear, leaders are what make the industry and what make projects happen. And I just want to give you an exemplar project that was very near this actual location. Just down the road from here, just 6 miles away, is Porter's Head. And there was a company there, Alliance Homes, who are a housing provider. And the director at the time, a chap called Steve Drew, wanted to set up a framework that landlords could access to buy PV very simply. So he set up a framework, and that framework delivered 15,000 homes across the southwest for domestic housing, for social housing occupiers. Why is that important? That one driver partner made that happen. And when you start thinking about the facts, each home roughly generates or saves £250 a year. So that's a nice amount for one home. When you times that by 15,000, and when you think that PV lasts for 40 years, that one person has saved £150 million. So it's big numbers, and that's one driver partner. So that's the type of person that we want delivering leaders, delivering actual projects within the construction industry. And that's equivalent to 1,000 new homes. And that was just by one guy making a decision to do something that was good for business. If we could get this working. So it's understanding the challenge. So within social housing, there are 4.5 million homes that use gas to heat their housing. So that's a big challenge, and we've got to start doing that, but we've got to get that finished by 2050. If we put that into what I call driver partners, people like Emma, at ex-City Council, people who make things happen, people that drive projects. There are 400 councils throughout the UK. There are 1,700 housing associations. And when you put those all together, it makes the task easy to break down. And it means that roughly every housing association, every council, over the next 30 years, only have to do a couple of months. And then that makes 4.5 million houses achievable. At the moment, it's a big number and no one wants to tackle it. But driver partners, leadership is really important. And what we have done within the Constructing Excellence Sustainability Forum, and we've recently merged with the Innovation Forum. So with my colleague John, we've created Sustainnovation. So you can tweet that if you want, yeah. So Sustainnovation looks at individual projects, and this is one of them. So we've taken housing, we've developed a paper on what could be achieved if landlords wanted to do it, and it will be free to download after this conference. So as I alluded to, it's 2.5 homes per month per driver partner, and that's all it takes. So it doesn't need someone doing 15,000 homes. It just needs ownership within an organisation to say, I've got some housing, they're currently using gas, and so I need to do something about that. I spoke to 2 landlords recently with very, very different views. One, I said, so what are you doing about the fact that you've got to remove gas from your housing stock? I don't really care, I'm leaving in 5 years. That's one view. The second view was, yeah, we're talking about it, we're phasing it out, and we will be changing our asset investment strategy to incorporate off-gas heating going forward. It's not working. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I've gone back one. So what are the options? We need to innovate. Most of you in the room will be aware of this. District heated systems, when they're done right, they do work. Heat pumps or direct electric, but we need innovation. And the government have recently announced that they're going to be spending something like 3.6 billion in supporting the renewable heat incentive, which is excellent news. And they're also putting another 160 million into Innovate UK to support directly the heating situation. So they are using some of the money that they've got left over, or they'll have after Brexit apparently, to invest in our future. And 73 million tonnes a year of carbon is something not to be sniffed at. So how can the Construction Excellence Southwest help? Well, we are looking to, John and I have been talking about setting up a virtual space to host a steering group, to actually encourage people to come into that space, bring their exemplar projects. We can learn from other organisations. As we talked about earlier on, this is not new. We know how to do this. You know, the construction industry is one of the best regulated, best organised industries within the UK. So projects like this are very easy for us to do. So we'll be sending out details of this once it's been set up. But the idea is to have a virtual workspace where people can post a question, they can post a project and say, I'm doing 100 houses, what would you recommend? And the experts within the Construction Excellence Forum, and there are over 1,000 people who get access to that throughout the Southwest alone, can support that. Or if anyone's got anything, they can come direct to me or John, and we will try to help them. How are we doing for time, Andrew?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
So next steps, it's the steering group needs to be made up of construction, that's you guys here, housing suppliers and individual stakeholders. And that's what we're looking. So if anyone's looking to be part of that steering group, or wants to add value, or wants to put input into it, as part of the sustainability or sustainability group, we'd be happy to hear from people who've got ideas about how this could happen. So it's a virtual space. It will be free to people to access information, and hopefully we can make a difference. So thank you for your time. Sorry, beg your pardon, I'm one slide out here. So we're looking to do something for the Sustainability Forum in September, and that's our next meeting, hopefully, that we'll be putting together, and then we'll have more details for people. It will probably be based in Exeter, and we've had some discussions actually yesterday about what that session might look like. But once we've got more information, I'll be coming back to all the members through Constructing Excellence. So thank you for your time, and if you've got any further questions.